Yes.
The third quick question that we've got to answer is, how can civil society identify, prepare and attract its leaders of the future?
I think there's already been some movement within our region. So there's been funding available for EMDA, the Regional Development Agency, has funded an organisation like Theme to train, and that their school
Who is
for
Theme?
social is the Social Enterprise East Midlands, and you know there are schools for entrepreneurs who want to set up social enterprise, and that's a start.
You have to be available when and where people need you, and we discussed earlier that it's not the chief execs all the time, it's the volunteers, if you're looking at talent identification, you've got to be embedded so strongly across the region or wherever you are to be able to pick up and harness what people in themselves can't always see, and that quite often is a problem. People that the chief execs have quite often got to that point because they have seen it, but there's a lot of talent out there that has not been harnessed, and
Do you think as a sector we're quite self-deprecating?
possibly,
Yeah.
because we always talk about the private sector as the like another level up. I think quite often.
Is it?
That's not
Question.
right.
Do you think it's the response? I mean, we're talking about civil society as if this exists as an amorphous blob. Who in civil society responsibility is it to identify new leaders? If you can point to somebody, I'd be quite interested to know. Or are we actually talking about setting up a new structure that actually identifies leaders, nurtures them, and then actually prepares them to become the leaders of civil society in the future? So it's almost like a leaders group within the voluntary sector or within civil society. I mean, because at the moment, I mean,
They're a very wide range of questions.
I think you've got a structure. I think you've got to move, say, civil society out, and you've got to put third sector in, or you've got to put some structure in.
I think it's useful for people to get together from different organisations and talk about it and share ideas, and therefore then go away and think, okay, how am I going to develop leadership in my organisation? That's what it's about, hopefully, but also, to influence what infrastructure organisations they are to develop leadership. I think it's quite telling that we're even asking the question. I think it probably means that voluntary sector organisations, civil society organisations, don't have a very clear idea about how they're going to encourage progression through their organisations, and therefore those organisations need to sit down and think about it.
it comes down to how we define civil society. And civil society surely is based on value system that is prevalent within the society, in which case all organisations, virtually every organisation, could then claim to be a civil society organisation, including the private sector, and they're already doing this.
Yes, and that's
So,
social responsibility coming in.
And that's why I don't think you can have civil society in there, because it captures everything that happens at one time, no matter where you are. And if you talk about civil society in the public sector, you talk about education and university, and the structures that the public sector put in place to apparently develop leaders, so people come from all walks. But so it's got to be within the structure that we know.
But this question is pointing in the direction that the third sector are the guardians of civil society, and what we're saying is we're not, or we're not. It's everybody's responsibility. We're part of it. We're working at the most disadvantaged end quite often. But that isn't all of civil society. It's everybody's problem.
But I think you can say that sort of third sector organisations have got a record of developing, leadership in public life, and there's lots of people in leadership in all sorts of organisations who have grown and developed through their involvement in third sector organisations.
But there are as many leaders who have come from private sector perspectives and have developed strongly in social causes.
Or do you think that the voluntary sector is seen as a stepping stone by people who want to be in those positions, and that we are actually being used?
I think it's always,
Prove your social credentials.
exactly. A lot of private sector organisations will say, tell us about the voluntary sector work you've done. And so we get people coming into the voluntary sector not because they actually have a damn about civil society, because they're doing it just for their CV so that they can actually move into positions within the private sector.
But conversely as well, you get on the other hand the reverse, where you get private sector people who say we want to leave the rat race, let's well, we still want to stay busy, so let's give something back for good voluntary work.
You do the opposite direction as well. Trustees, volunteers, quite often are still in employment. They're not all retired. There's a lot of us that are in, I'm sure many of us still, and they're all still in the voluntary sector. What we've suddenly defined as the voluntary sector is the people that are paid to work in the voluntary sector, and not actually what the voluntary sector is about by the term that we've just coined it.
Do we think a lot of those people who come back to maybe treasurers or chairs of voluntary sector organisations have been a success and have probably been leaders within the private sector and are probably, yes, they want to work in the voluntary sector, not work, they want to be part of the voluntary sector and they want to share their skills, but have probably in many cases been approached by the voluntary sector and asked if they want to do that job as well. They're already leaders.
The voluntary sector are moving into that, where they're starting to do skill interviews to build up their boards, rather than actually the people with the passion. There's definitely a movement towards the management side than the leadership side.
And in fact, it is actually a requirement. Good governance requires that you have that skill matrix on your board, which is why I get recruited. I mean, I'm a voluntary governor on the two organisations that I volunteer for, but I come from the business sector, and that's how I introduce myself